back again. Now, thankfully this time it is not a Haters Club video. I got something else in mind. So, did you know that this year Jaws turns 40 years old? Yeah, pretty interesting, isn't it? I didn't even know that until I saw the Mythbusters special about Jaws. And I was kind of surprised. Also this year, the movie Seven turns 20 years old. Yeah, I read an article on Yahoo about that. And these movies are still good to this day. They have stood the test of time. And I think even another decade or two from now, people will still watch these movies and enjoy them as the good movies as that they are. Maybe even solid and really good movies. But not all movies can be that way, can't they? Some movies, they just don't stand the test of time. They're good maybe for a few years, and then you watch them again when you're older, and say, oh, I like this movie, and then you realize it's not as good as I thought it was. And sometimes you watch it and go, man, this movie actually kind of sucks. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. This is my top 5 movies that don't stand the test of time. Alright, number 5 on my list is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Now, you're probably wondering if you had watched my previous video, which probably haven't. You probably wait. You said this movie isn't as bad as people said it was. And it isn't. It's not as bad as people said it was. Say it is. But it's not as good as it used to be. Yeah, it has not really stood the test of time. The thing is that I said in my previous video that it's a time capsule movie. And it is. Both in the good and the bad. Because the movie, it's not as good as it was when I first saw it. I was a big Ninja Turtles fan back in the day. And when I first watched the second movie, I was like, oh man, this is just like the first one. It's just as good. And it's really great to see them do another Ninja Turtles movie. And I was happy to see it. But then watching a few years later, you realize, no, it's not as good as the first one. I mean, the costumes are not as good. The action is not as good. I mean, it's a lot more kiddish than it was in the first movie. Reminiscent more of the Ninja Turtles cartoon. But with the first movie, you're like, this was different than the cartoon, and it was still good. But the second one, they tried to lighten the movie too much. Not to mention they had a new sidekick, and there was no Casey Jones. So it was like, what's going on with this movie? And of course, there's the infamous Vanilla Ice scene. But I think people have come around to that scene now, saying it's not that bad as people used to say it was. But still, the movie as a whole is not as good as when I first watched it. It's just the way it is. And that is also true of my number 4 movie, which is Three Ninjas. This is another 90s movie. Oh god, where do we begin with this one? So, 3 lily white teenage boys get taught by their Chinese grandfather. Yeah, don't try and make sense of this. This is, not to mention, it's the same actor from Big Trouble in Little China. You know, the one that helped out Jack Burton? Yeah, that guy. The little guy with one eye bigger than the other. But, yeah, he trains these boys, and it's... Yeah, I remember when I watched it before in the 90s, I thought, man, this is a fun movie. It's a kid's movie, and I was a kid then, so I thought it was cool. And then I watched it years later, I was like, oh man, this movie's kind of dumb. Yeah, it's pretty dumb. And you realize, you start thinking, you know, wait a minute, the kids are white, their parents are both white, but their dad and their grandfather is Chinese or Japanese. You know, they just call them Asian back. It's not like they knew the difference. That's so stupid. Yeah, so yeah, their grandfather's Chinese. So I was like, wait a minute, when did that happen? And then, yeah, they're never explained, and it's like, not to mention the names that he gives his grandkids they're kind of dumb when you watch it again later on. So yeah, and this was before they started, going to other countries and teaming up with Hulk Hogan. It was already getting kind of dumb even before that happened. Don't worry, I'll get to Hulk Hogan later. But first off, number 3 on my list is Spider-Man 1. Now, one thing about Spider-Man 1 is that now that you see a decade later, almost a decade and a half later, you see things like the CGI isn't as good. Not to mention there are scenes that really are pretty bad, almost like a bad green screen, where Spider-Man is in a completely different plane than the background and everything else. So it kind of throws you off when you're trying to watch it again. Not to mention, since the movie came out sometime after 9/11, there was a lot of patriotic, rah, him standing in front of the American flag. Also, the scene with New Yorkers banding together saying, you mess with one of us, mess with all of us. And then when you see years later, it's like, wait a minute, that's not how New Yorkers are. Anyone that's from New York has told me, he's like, yeah, and New Yorkers aren't like that. They would not stand together and help Spider-Man like that. So, it's kind of dumb. Not to mention the chemistry between Spider-Man and Mary Jane, and even Peter Parker and Mary Jane in that first movie, is not that good. This is one of the reasons why I like Amazing Spider-Man better than the Spider-Man series of Tobey Maguire, because Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker's chemistry and the relationship was much better than Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker's in the Sam Raimi movies with Tobey Maguire. Not to mention, Mary Jane just felt like a typical damsel in distress. And years later, when you see, Gwen Stacy's portrayal in Amazing Spider-Man, and she's not that, she actually helps out Peter Parker a few times in these movies, you realize that, she's not that good as a leading lady. Also, the thing that gets me is that Peter Parker is the stereotypical nerd. I'm so helpless, I'm so weak, I'm so smart, but I'm also socially awkward. It's like I said, he basically plays it like the 60s Spider-Man cartoon. And I think, like I said before, if you like the 60s Spider-Man cartoon, you would like the Tobey Maguire movies. But if you like the Spider-Man cartoon of the 90s like I do, you like the Amazing Spider-Man ones. And when you go back and watch the first one like I did, that first one does not stand up. Not to mention, you had Harry Osborn was okay, but not as fleshed out as he could have been. They do more of that in the second movie, and they kind of crap all over in the third one. But anyways, also, Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn, again, it's very like over the top 60s comic and 60s cartoon kind of villain. That's how he played it, and it's not that good to me. Not as good as the Lizard was in the Amazing Spider-Man movie. But still, if you like that Spider-Man movie, you probably would defend it, just like I defend Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. But you won't find a lot of people defending my number 2 on this list, which is No Holds Barred. I told you I was going to get the Hulk Hogan, didn't I? So, years before he became the third man in the NWO and became Hollywood Hulk Hogan in WCW, and decades before he made stupid ass racist remarks, and which got him kicked out of the WWE Hall of Fame, he was the biggest marquee name in wrestling, in part of what was then the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, the real WWF as far as I'm concerned. And he was doing a movie, No Holds Barred. Oh man, where do I begin with this? So, he plays a wrestler, how quaint, who gets caught in this criminal underground kind of a criminal organization trying to take him out so they can, to be honest, it's been a couple of years since I've seen the movie, and I kind of wanted to forget about it, because when I watched it again, it was like, oh god, I forgot how corny this movie is. It is so corny. I mean, he has a sidekick who's just there to get the crap beaten out of him, and he's supposed to be this inspirational, yeah, you could do it. And the main villain, you know, the crime syndicate hires this character, this imposing enforcer named Zeus, played by Tiny Lister from Friday. Still a great movie, by the way. And he doesn't say much, but it's kind of funny just to see that. Oh man, I can't believe they're really making this seem like it's a real wrestling match. And not to mention the character Zeus actually did participate in the WWF at the time. It was a weird crossover. I think this is one reason why I forgot some of it, because I'm trying to remember what was in the movie and what happened in the actual World Wrestling Federation. But it was so lame and so corny when I saw it again years later. I was like, oh god, I can't believe I liked this movie. I was a huge Hulkamaniac back then. That was before I became a Creature of the Night with The Undertaker. But still, I was a big Hulkamaniac. But then years later when I started watching it again, I was like, oh man, I can't believe I like this movie. It's so corny. But there is one scene that I still laugh at, and is still funny to this day, is when he gets attacked by a group of guys and he beats them all up. If I remember correctly, he reaches through the limousine and pulls out one guy, and all of a sudden he goes, "What's that smell?" And the guy's holding is all scared. He's like, "Dookie." And the look on his face is like, oh god. Is there still some funny moments in it for the most part? And it is one of those. It's now become a so bad it's hilarious kind of movie, but it is not stood the test of time at all. It is corny as hell. It is not good as I remembered it. But that's still not my number one. My number one movie that has not stood the test of time is Avatar. And I'm not talking about The Last Airbender either. I'm talking about James Cameron's Avatar. I remember I watched this movie with my pop, my brother, and a bunch of cousins. Not all of them, because we would have filled up four screenings of this movie. But we did take one road, just all of us together. And after we watched the movie, we watched the movie in 3D. So this is all we talked about was the 3D and the special effects. We're talking about, oh man, did you see that scene? The 3D looks so cool, and look at that animation. You know, this was when we were really starting to see what motion capture could do, and the motion capture was what we were talking about. There's all the animation, the way that they look, they were so huge, and all this special effects. Oh man, did you see that 3D? It was so cool. And then we talked about it again like 2 days later, and then we were talking about the actual movie, and this when we realized, wait a minute, the story sucked. The story sucked. It was what we called Dancing with Wolves in Space. And one of my buddies calls it Dancing with Space Wolves. Both are accurate. It is basically a retelling of Dancing with Wolves, very poorly done, and that movie isn't all that good anyways, as far as I'm concerned. But Avatar, it took us 2 days. We feel like, no, this movie actually kind of sucks. Once you get past all the fancy dressing of the effects and the 3D and the motion capture, you realize the story is BS. It is so stupid. And not to mention the fact that it continues one of the dumbest movie cliches, movie tropes that I've seen, and I don't like it, is the white guy goes native and is a better native than the natives. I saw a meme that put it perfectly. It just showed a bunch of stills from movies like The Last Samurai, Avatar, Dances with Wolves. I don't remember what else was in that in the meme, and it just said simply, "White guys are better at being you than you." I was like, oh, this is such a stupid trope, and it was like, ugh, yeah, it kind of frustrated me because once we got out of the theater, it was no longer good. Like 2 days later, once we actually were able to talk about the actual movie itself instead of the effects, no, this movie kind of sucks. And that's why it is, to me, the #1 movie that does not stand the test of time. It took us 2 days before we realized that, yeah, the movie actually sucks ass. Because once you get past the effects and the 3D, nope, movie's not good. But that's my opinion. What's yours? What do you think are movies that have not stood the test of time? I'm curious. Let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. If anybody ever watches this video, most people don't anyway, so what does it matter? So October's coming up. I've got some stuff because Halloween's in October. I do have some stuff coming up then. So look forward to that. Until then, bye.